Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Wednesday review. And today's review is to be taken as a request, and this is a request from, well, Paul of Doomsday Today Records. Now, if you hadn't seen my last Unearthed Mail episode, which would be me opening up a promo package from Paul, well, in that promo package was plenty of CDs and cassettes for me to review. Now, they were given to him from at least friends of that were in bands or whatnot that were given to him that he obviously sent to me for them, and basically in hopes of me reviewing. And so that's where it brings us to the album here, and that is at least one of them. It is, well, you can tell it seems to be self-titled, but it's the debut album from Dragg. A stoner slash doom metal sludge band out of Lubbock, Texas. And again, this is a self-titled album, though at least that is according to Metal Archives. But if you were to go on their Bandcamp page, apparently this is being titled as Demo. So the band titled this Demo, actually. So basically it's Demo from Dragg, and it was originally released all the way back on April 1st of 2014. So it's a very older album from these guys. So again, it's definitely not a current release. Still, though, again, this is a request. So I'm going to fulfill that quest, and that's where I'm going into basically right now transition into the actual review, so I can get into more information about these guys. So without further ado, let me get into my review of Demo from Dragg. Okay, so before we get into, any of my thoughts on this particular release, you know what I have to do? I have to do a track listing rundown so I can tell you folks what are the songs on this album, how many songs were on this album, and what is the time length for this album. And since we have at least about, actually it's about 5 songs here, it all clocks in, at least according to Metal Archives, at 33 minutes and 18 seconds, which that might be the time length for the digital release, but it is not the time length for the CD release, because of when I pop the CD into my CD player, which again also reads the time length for the release. It didn't read as 33 minutes and 18 seconds. It ended up reading as 45 minutes and 46 seconds. That's because of the very last track, which originally, it's pretty much a 6-minute and 4-second track, but after that, them 4 seconds, you get at least a little bit of dead silence before all of a sudden it hits the 8-minute and 37 mark, where all of a sudden you start to hear something, and that's when you can tell that they tacked a hidden instrumental at the end of this track. Which I think if you were to separate that track from this one, that obviously would be timed at probably maybe 7 or 8 minutes. So basically, because of that hidden track that's tacked at the end of the last song here, it basically went from being a 6-minute and 4-second track to being more basically over 18 minutes long. So there you go. But there's your time length. Let's get into at least the songs here. Since there's 5 songs, it's definitely start up from the top here. So it begins with Haboobsman, then into Forever Boris, Wearing the Ocean, Black in the Sky, then finally ending with Windship. So there you go. There's your 5 songs basically, or 6 if you were to count the hidden track. So Dragg, where do I really begin here? Well, I can tell you this. Besides getting the 2 discs from Dragg, because yes, Dragg, again, besides the information to be telling you earlier on within the video here, that they obviously are based out of Lubbock, Texas, and they were formed at least all the way back in 2012. Sadly, after releasing their second album in 2015, they ended up splitting up 2 years later, so basically 2017. So they're no longer active. So, but I'm gonna go back a little bit because of hopefully this doesn't take up too much time of the video here. But besides receiving these 2 albums from Dragg, which again I do plan on reviewing the second album as well next week. Because again, going to this one, and then it just makes, it all makes sense there, okay? So, to kind of get into that, kind of give out you more information about these guys. Besides being given, the two CDs of Dragg, also in that box there was 3 CDs from a band called Slobula. Now, obviously, just like you, if you had seen that video and me showing you, which they were actually one of the first CDs I actually ended up pulling out anyways out of that box, you probably were like, who the hell are these guys? Well, I was the same way as you. I didn't know who Slobula are. Of course, Paul has always turned me on to a lot of bands I haven't heard of. Yeah, and some more newer ones. Again, making me aware of some newer bands. So, Slobula. There's really barely a whole lot of information about them, especially on like Metal Archives and Discogs. But when you go on to at least those 2 sites, they only list 1 CD, and that would be the final thing they released. But there was 2 other releases that came before that one. So basically 2 demos. So basically they released about 3 demos within the period of 2003 or whatnot. And originally, also to kind of bring up as far as other facts, is that Slobula originally went under the name Paradox. Obviously, around the time they probably were formed as Paradox, Metal Archives was probably also a very brand new site. And so when they probably were trying to put their band onto at least maybe on the Metal Archives, well, they probably then realized or looked up that there were a lot of bands that went under the name Paradox. There were 2 British bands that went by the name of Paradox, and of course a German band. But there was a lot of bands that went by that name, so they were like, they probably asked themselves, fuck, there's a lot of bands by the name Paradox. We need to probably find a new name now. And so they were probably, during all this conversation and whatnot, I don't know how the hell they probably just locked onto the name Slobula, or how it just came about. But if it came out of them just like, oh, well, just fucking whatever. They saw something that did there, they put the 2 words together, Slobula? Huh. You know what? There's no other band that has that name. We'll just use it. So there you go. That's probably how that came about. So they released at least 3 demos before they all split up. However, after splitting up, at least a guy by the name Blair, who was actually the drummer for both Paradox and Slobula, obviously a decade later decides to form Dragg, and instead of taking the duties of being the drummer, he decides to take on the role of being the guitarist and vocalist, and also provides synths also to the songs here as well. So that's where we're then pretty much heading to Dragg here. So again, since Slobula, they kind of also go into more comparisons here, since Dragg is definitely a sludge/stoner/doom metal band. Slobula was kind of the same way too. They definitely were more of, they were way more of the sludge metal though variety. But the difference between them is that while Blair definitely performs the vocal duties, he's very different from the guy that sang for Slobula, because his vocal style was more almost modern hardcore style, shouty vocal style basically for Slobula. Whereas Blair's vocal style for these, it's one of the main reasons why I think Dragg really comes off more as more straightforward sort of stoner rock or stoner metal/doom metal. You know, it's more straightforward compared to Slobula. So his sort of shouty vocals here for Dragg are more typical of it. It's almost like more deep sort of whiskey-soaked style vocals they come off of. Or maybe, I don't know, drugged up a little bit. I don't know. I hate to use that term because that's almost kind of bad in a way that many people take that as a bad way. I don't mean that. So anyways, that's kind of what you get. The difference is here that they definitely Dragg take on, well, it's the same thing with Slobula though. Dragg on the hand, I think come off more spacey, way more sort of acidy in a way. Which is, again, kind of typical compared to a lot of other, stoner rock bands. But these guys are definitely more spacier, and you really get that atmospheric vibe anyways within the first track, Haboobsman, which begins with a very 2-minute, almost very staticky, very just spacey sort of intro. and then when it finally gets into the first taste of the music, it ends up setting the pace and tempo for the rest of the 4 songs on this album, because of what you get is definitely just straight up slow, brooding, methodical stoner / rock metal and doom metal of that variety. It is slow and brooding. And again, these songs are long, but the tempos never really change, and it ends up being the same tempo for the most part for a lot of the songs on the sound. Maybe save for maybe Windship, but because that one's a little more melodic, but it still has the same sort of concept and pacing and whatnot. So everything's pretty much the same. So for me to kind of comment on every one of these songs, if I were to comment about one song on this album, well, I'm pretty much commenting about almost all the songs on the album, basically. And that's not supposed to, don't take that as a negative. That's just the way it comes off of when I hear. One thing I can really say is that compared to the production values to like Slobula, which what I've listened to of, these are definitely more better produced, but these are still come off very raw. If anything, one of the biggest charms about these for why everything comes off so and why I'm not being so negative is because of they all come off as being more, again, because of the sort of garage sort of feel that this album has, it actually really makes everything sound like it's one straight up jam session basically, and it's actually really interesting in some cases, and it fits the overall aesthetic of what they're going for. It fits along with the attitude of the band here, and the overall performance, it works. It elevates some of it because of the sort of almost raw, dirgy, fucking very garagey sound that you get here, or the overall room feel and everything. It just has that, and I think it works. So the rawness is great, and it's perfect for this style anyways. Again, if I have to make any comparisons to, since they are of the stoner or doom metal sound, I can make some comparisons to like maybe Wretch or Gates of Slumber or maybe Electric Wizard, but they're not really a clone of them and don't really sound like them, but there's that comparisons. But they are definitely, just to tell you, they are of the stoner / doom metal sort of genre category, and that's what you expect. That's what you're going to expect from this. So if you're a fan at least of those genres, of the stoner rock stuff, you'll like this. But if you're just maybe a slight casual fan, you might find a lot of the stuff maybe to be very monotonous or repetitious, or a little repetitive basically. And that's probably going to be a big turnoff for you when I definitely say that a lot of these songs are almost the same tempo in a way, or they almost sound, even though they all have their own different little riffs that ends up being unique to them a little bit, that separates them a little bit. Still, because of the same tempoing, you're probably going to get a little bored of it. But if you just like, or just a hardcore stoner metal or doom metal fan, I think you'll definitely dig this. So there you go. So it's time to get into my final thoughts, basically. And my overall final thoughts on this is that I think it's a very solid album. And since this is an older release, I don't feel like giving it a rating. But I am definitely going to recommend this. And since even though the band ain't really active these days, their Bandcamp page is still active. They still are selling copies of these 2 albums anyways on their Bandcamp page. So if you're interested in checking these guys out, I will definitely leave you a link to at least the Bandcamp page, which you can find in the description box, so you can check them out. And if you like what you hear, or basically, if you like what you hear, basically, you'll hopefully you at least support these guys. Again, even if they are not active, I still recommend at least just the notion of just basically support Dragg. Again, if you like it, support them. There we go. Thank you to at least Paul of Doomsday Today Records for sending this out to me. And yes, I fulfilled your request. I'm going to keep fulfilling your requests next week when I review, again, the second album and their last album here. So I will definitely get to that. So without further ado, hope all of you enjoyed that. This is Heavy Thrasher saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.